Welcome to the Leather Shop. My name is J.D. Baker, and I'm the owner of highbarj Leatherworks, a small custom leather shop in southwest Missouri. I get a lot of people ask me questions about leather. What's good leather, quality, types? Why do some things made of leather seem to last and others just fall apart? How can I tell the difference between good leather and not so good leather? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Leather. What it is, where it comes from, how it's tanned, different types, different qualities, and give you a little buyer's guide information on the world of leather. We ask ourselves, what is leather? Where does it come from? Well, leather is the skin of animals that has been run through a process called tanning. What tanning does is changes the protein and the pH balance of the material so it won't rot. And it creates a very unique material that humans have been using for thousands of years. Now, you can tan about any type of animal hide that you can think of, but you need a few things in order to do the tanning. You need oils and acid in order to preserve the hide. And there's a number of different ways to source what type of oils or acids that you want to use. If we go all the way back to the Native Americans, they used what was called brain tanning. They would use the brains of the animal to tan the hide. Well, if you scientifically look at what a brain is, it's made up of fats and amino acids, and so that's the process that they used. And that process makes a very, very soft hide, and they would use it on deer hides and buffalo hides. And the deer hides they would use to make their clothing because it was very soft and velvety. Then you have what's known as vegetable tanning. Vegetable tanning makes a more rigid type leather that can be tooled with artwork, or historically they made saddles and things out of this type of leather, or horse gear, anything that they needed a rigid piece of material for, belts, holsters, wallets, knife sheaths, things like that. And they call it vegetable tan leather because they source their chemicals from plants. They would use tannin, which shows up in tree bark and wood ashes, and then they would source their oils from either the tallows of the animal that they've got the skin from, or wherever they would like to source them. Beyond that, you have some oil tan leathers, which they use different types of oils and acids, or chrome tan or chromium tanned leather. Chromium tanned leather, they use chromium and salts to create the acids, and it typically makes a very, very soft hide, and that's where you find a lot of your handbags or your bomber jackets, leather vests, clothing, things like that. Most of your applications that you're going to find in the store, if you're looking for leather products like handbags or personal items, they're going to be a chrome tanned leather. Now, you don't find a lot of chrome tan being used to make holsters or knife sheaths or things like that, because the chromium will react with metal and can cause rust and different things. So for knife sheaths and gun holsters, typically you would use a vegetable tan leather. Now, you'll notice on this vegetable tan leather, it's rather thick. This one is 14 to 16 ounce leather, which is roughly a 1/4 inch thick. And they rate leather by ounces, meaning that if you cut 1 square foot of leather out of here, then it's going to weigh 16 ounces. But you also can transfer the ounces into the actual thickness of the leather. Now, most applications, you don't need a piece of leather that is a 1/4 inch thick. And in some parts of the hide, the leather can be thicker than a 1/4 inch thick. It can be all the way up to 3/8 and sometimes a 1/2 inch thick. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit here. See if I can get this a little closer so you can see. This is, again, a piece of vegetable tan leather, and you can see the thickness of what it used to be. There's a few different pieces here, but I'm going to show you what they do to make the leather thinner for different applications, and where you get some different qualities. Because the very top part of the leather has two sides. It has a smooth side and it has a rough side. The smooth side is known as the top grain. It's the very top of the hide where the hair used to be, and that is the best quality piece of leather. The up here where the smooth side is, the fibers are the densest and very close together, and that's where you get a lot of your quality. The further down you go to the flesh side, the less dense the material is, and the less the quality can be. As I said, most applications for leather, you don't need a piece of leather that's 3/8 of an inch thick. So they run this through what's called a skiver or a splitter. And as they split it down, they'll take the top grain off of the leather and make it very thin. Now this is the choice best piece of leather that you can get. Maybe not quite this thin, but there's different applications you can do for thinner pieces of leather like this. But off of the whole hide, the top grain is the best. That's where you have your most strength. You have the smoothest piece. Now, if you were to sew this to a belt or a man-made piece of material to make a belt, you really want a little thicker in this if you want a good quality belt, because this thin is not going to hold up to the work of being a good belt. It would make a nice, elegant dress belt, but this thin would be a little too thin for belts. But this is the best piece of leather that you're going to find off of the hide. Now, when you go down, now you don't have a really smooth side. You have rough on both sides. But you'll notice here that this is still pretty tightly dense material that's put together. Now, if you turn it over on the back side, you can see how porous it is. You want the denser material. So they'll split this off here, and they'll put finishes on here, waxes and tallows and oils and even sometimes plastics and different things, and buff that out until this gets very, very smooth and looks like the top grain. Now, this is still a quality piece of leather. It's not quite as good as if they would have left the top grain on here. But typically, when it has just a soft velvety feeling, they call that nubuck. Which, if you can look at the cross section of this, I don't know if you can see it there, get some light on here, you're still pretty dense material down to a more fleshy material. And this would be, they make a lot of boots out of this. If you've seen like the Caterpillar work boots, or it's got a velvet type finish, not quite as rough as suede, but this is called the nubuck. And that's because they've taken the top grain off the leather, but it's still a quality piece of leather they can use. Now, as we keep going down, nubuck's gone, and now we have a more porous side of the leather on both sides. This is what they make into suede. They'll put pigment and color onto this and kind of run it through a machine that kind of crumples it up and makes it really soft. And you have what's known as suede. Now, they've marketed this to be a choice piece of leather, but it's not. It's a very soft piece of leather and can be made for clothing and different things. Sometimes they use it for lining for belts and different stuff. But the quality of the leather, this is actually a poorer quality than the top grain. But it's still usable, and if you know what it is, it's still okay. You just don't use it for applications where you need a lot of strength. Now, beyond that, you really get down to the really rough stuff. Now, this is very porous on both sides. This is the worst quality piece of leather that comes off of the hide. Now, again, they will wax this, they will finish this, they will do lots and lots and lots of things to this to make this look like the top grain. Now, when they do that, they end up with a piece of leather like this here. And if you look at the cross section, it is still very porous, but it's very smooth. Kind of has a little bit of a cardboard feel because they put so much finish and stuff on here to make it look good and cover up the fact that this is the worst piece of quality off of the leather. This is what they call genuine leather. If you ever see a product that is stamped genuine leather, They didn't want to call it poor quality leather, so they used the word genuine. And it's a marketing ploy. Is this better than waxed cardboard? Yes. Is this still leather? Yes. Is it of really good quality? No. Genuine leather is the cheapest leather that you can get. It's still leather, but it is not of high quality. So you start with the top grain, the smooth side, and you'll notice that all of these leathers, if we have the chrome tan, the pull-up leather, the oil tan, the nubuck, they all have kind of a smooth side to them. So you go, how can I tell if they've waxed it out and made it look like it's top grain? Well, a lot of time you can look at the cross section. If you can find a cross section of the leather, you can get in here and see the cross section of the leather and look how porous it is. If it's really dense, compact material, then it's a better quality leather. If it's really, really porous, like some of these in here, and you see how it's really, really porous in there, then that's not a good quality. Well, sometimes with the products, you can't see the cross grain. So a lot of time you can go by feel, but that takes a little training to figure that out, because some things will have a waxy finish, some will have a stiffer finish. But go by the names, because they can't call top grain leather genuine leather, and they can't call genuine leather top grain leather. Now, when they tan chrome tan leather, it's actually tanned twice, because the first time they tan it, it turns the hide blue. And this is the back side of a piece of hair on, and you can see this kind of bluish color. This is what all these other hides looked like after they were tanned with chromium. And then they re-tan them with the pigments and colors, and to make them into whatever they want the hide to look like. I hope I was able to give you some good information on leather. And if you are looking for some good leather products, you can check out my website at highbarjleatherworks.com. I also have an Etsy page at highbarj. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button. I hope to have some other videos out very soon. If you have any questions about leather, put them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as quick as I can. Until I see you again, we'll see you down the trail.
Come ride with me. It's time to saddle up right away.